Why did my disabled dad point at my husband on our wedding day and say, absolutely not? Anyone but you? 2 years ago, my dad and I were out celebrating in London. Nothing fancy, just a basic day trip to toast his retirement. We were leaving the bar at 11 p.m. when 3 men in dark masks surrounded us in the alley. They had knives, they saw my designer bag and gold watch, and they lunged for me specifically. My dad jumped in the way. He told me to run while taking all 3 of them on at once. Before I could process what happened, the men were running away, and my dad was on the ground bleeding out. A knife was sticking out of his lower back. I dropped to my knees and called the ambulance, holding his face and begging him to stay with me. His eyes shut as he was loaded into the ambulance. He went into a coma where nobody knew if he'd ever wake up. 2 years later, a miracle happened. He woke up 1 week before my wedding. Despite the doctor's orders, he checked himself out and booked a flight to where I now lived so he could attend. My wedding was the first time he'd ever see Roger, my fiancé. My dad was in a wheelchair, but him accompanying me down the aisle was a dream come true. I'd never been happier than when the ceremony doors opened and I walked out with my dad. I saw Roger's reaction first. His eyes went wide and not in a good way. Then my dad got a closer look at Roger's face. Suddenly he pulled his hand away. I felt my dad shaking, hyperventilating. He was turning gray, pointing his finger at Roger, yelling, "No, anyone but you. God, anyone but you. Why are you marrying my daughter?" The music had cut, and before he could say anything else, he clutched his chest. He started wheezing, his eyes rolled back. My dad was having a heart attack while walking me down the aisle at my own wedding. Chaos, screams. Everyone called the ambulance at once. At the hospital, I found myself still in my wedding dress as the doctors told me he had gone into another coma. In between all the sadness and confusion, I had so many questions. Did my dad and Roger know each other? What had Roger done? Was I safe around him? He kept saying he'd never met my father, but how could I believe him? The next day, while in the hospital, I noticed a scar on my dad's exposed thigh. I'd seen it before, but never really looked or asked about it. "Mom, what's this scar?" She quickly glanced at it. Snowboarding accident when he was young, but Dad hated the cold, and the scar looked like a stab wound. I went to Roger's flat while he was at work the next day. I found a box tucked away in the closet. Inside were newspaper clippings about my dad's attack 2 years ago, articles about the trial, photos of Dad unconscious in hospital. Why would Roger have these? When he came home and saw me holding them, his hands fidgeted like he was nervous. "Why do you have articles about my father?" I researched your family before meeting them," he stammered out. Then he grabbed his keys and left. I drove straight to his mother's house. "Has Roger ever been to London?" She hesitated. "No, he's never been overseas." "Are you sure?" Her hands started trembling. "You need to talk to Roger." She closed the door. Back at Roger's flat, I searched deeper. Hidden under clothes, I found old court documents from 15 years ago. Most details were blocked out, but I could read a few. Assault charge, juvenile, case sealed. Roger had hurt someone when he was younger. I was driving myself crazy trying to figure it out when the hospital called. Dad was miraculously awake. I dropped to my knees and cried. He was alive. I rushed there immediately. But when I got to his room, he wasn't really awake. His eyes were open, but he was drooling and couldn't speak. When I held his hand and told him it was me, he didn't say a word. Severe brain damage, the doctor said. Vegetative state. He can't communicate. I held his hand and cried. 2 days later, I was in Roger's place again, searching. And hidden in a book, I found an old photo. A young woman holding a baby. The back said, "Don't forget where you came from." I showed it to Rogers. "Who is this?" She started crying. "That's Roger's real mom, my sister. She died 3 years ago." I couldn't believe it. The woman I thought was Roger's mother was actually his aunt. "Why would he hide this?" I asked. "It's not my place to tell you." She was sobbing now. "But please talk to him. You deserve the truth." I called Roger from the hospital the next morning. "Can you please come down? I have questions about your past." I could hear him literally gulp, but he had no other choice. He met me in the hospital cafeteria 20 minutes later. "Tell me the truth." His lip quivered like he was crying. Then he broke completely. "I'm your father's son." My coffee mug crashed onto the table. "My father's son? What do you mean?" Roger continued. "Your dad left my mom when I was a baby. When I was 13, I found him. I blamed him for how bad my life was. I was angry, and I stabbed him. My chest tightened and my knees buckled. Did you know before meeting me?" I asked. Full story on channel linked below.